Welcome, everyone. This is the second episode of the Unbanned podcast, and this week we're saying unban gingerbread. Actually, unban all fairy tales and Garuk, and just unban everything because so many things have happened this week. It's insane. We've got Modern Talk coming up. We got Throne of Eldraine spoilers. We picked a few cards from that, and we are ready to go. I'm Jake, and we got Justin.
Hello.
And Jordan here.
I am Jordan.
You really are.
I'm pushing that intro.
We're going to talk about Magic the Gathering this week. So I think we're going to start off with Modern Talk, and we'll get to the Throne of Eldraine trailer and spoilers a little bit later, as well as some other set announcements that they just throw out there seemingly out of nowhere. So, guys, did anyone watch any of the Modern coverage that happened? It's been a few days since our last recording. We didn't hit exactly a week, so got a lot of results coming out.
I sadly did not get to watch any.
I watched very little. I've been playing way too much WoW. I should be watching it while I play WoW because I need to stay up to date on things, but I've not been doing the amount of work that I should be. So maybe you could go through it for us.
Man, that World of Warcraft, it'll swallow your life, guys. Be careful out there. As if Magic the Gathering is any better. So, basically, there was SCG Dallas, and there was GP Indianapolis. GP Indianapolis was a team event, but both of them were Modern, and we got all sorts of metadata and people playing decks. Stoneforge Mystic, not as good as some people seem to be hyped up about.
Can I say I called it?
Yes, you can say you called it. I think a lot of people called it, honestly.
I think a few people were kind of caught off guard with the thinking it would be really good and being very excited to brew with it, and then, I mean, that's kind of what happens anytime a really big card is introduced in the format, is that everyone wants to play with it, everyone wants to brew with it, and sometimes it might be better to just wait to see, let everyone else playtest it for you, and then see if it's good based off that. I don't know. I mean, there's the fear of missing out. If you're not brewing with the new cards or like the newly unbanned card, and then everyone else does really well with it, and then, oh, I could have had that success that they had if only I had used that card. But I didn't have that much faith in Stoneforge Mystic to put up a lot of results. But, I mean, it is only the first week, so we'll have to see how things shape up. It might find a really good home. Like, I saw the green-white Eldrazi list that Ali Warfield played, and that seems pretty good. Eldrazi and Stoneforge Mystic and Karn all seem to play very well together.
And yeah, the Eldrazi deck looks really interesting. There's a lot of places where people are just kind of shoving Stoneforge Mystic, but yeah, like you said, that's just what you do. I remember when Bloodbraid Elf got unbanned, and it was just Bloodbraid Elf and everything. It was blue, green with white, everything had Bloodbraid Elf. It was insane.
And now it's pretty much tied to John. You don't really see Bloodbraid Elf in many other decks. Like, there's the red-green zoo lists and stuff like that, but aside from that, it's pretty much a card for John.
Ponza, which is totally still a real list.
Yeah, definitely. People play Ponza, right?
But I guess it's kind of how it works with every unbanned card. There's not going to be an unhyped unbanned card, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, if they unbanned... I'm trying to think of what cards are safe for unbanning. Like, a lot of people think Green Sun Zenith is okay. Like, if they unban that, everyone would start playing green decks with it.
Or Twin will be everywhere if they want to unban that any year now.
Oh, yeah. Even if Twin is bad, like, even if it was not good in the current Modern format, which I think it would be good, it just wouldn't be dominant, then, yeah, you'd see it everywhere. For, like, the 6 months after Twin is unbanned, it will be everywhere.
I mean, it also helps that Twin is actually quite good and has a really big Modern pedigree. Stoneforge is interesting because it's like Jace was. It's just never been in this format, and people are trying to find out where to put it. And let's actually go to some of the results and like see where people are trying to play it. A big one that I saw was Azorius Control. I mean, I just clicked it on Goldfish right now, and there's an Azorius list with 0 Stoneforge Mystic in it.
I think I mentioned it last week. Pretty sure I did. But Monastery Mentor has kind of taken the spot in Azorius Control that I think Stoneforge would fit into. and it takes less slots. It's a little more consistent, and also just helps you grind out even better than Stoneforge does. So, and at least Azorius doesn't seem to want it that much.
It also just works with your strategy already. You're casting a lot of spells in control, so you might as well play the thing that triggers off of all your spells.
Yeah.
Doesn't look like anyone's really playing it in the Wurza decks either. They've pretty much most of the ones I'm seeing here are still playing Goblin Engineer. They're not trying to go fetch up their Sword of the Meek with Stoneforge Mystic.
Again, this was the first week and a half ish since the unbanning, so we'll have to see where it ends up. But yeah, it seems like if you're not playing a deck that was kind of built with Stoneforge Mystic in mind, like obviously Death and Taxes loves it, even with Leonin Arbiter. They really like it. Stuff like the Eldrazi list, kind of derpy creature matchups or creature decks.
Pretty much all of those get better. Like, you don't lose anything by including it. It's not like Blue-White where if you throw in 6 spells that aren't counter spells, aren't removal, aren't sweepers, you are hurting your strategy.
And it does seem like Eldrazi, I referenced the green-white Eldrazi list, but I don't know if green-white is necessarily the best home for it, but I think Eldrazi is where you want to be as far as playing Stoneforge Mystic, just because the Eldrazi creatures are some of the best cards, the best creature cards in Modern. So they also are some of the best creatures to put a equipment on with Stoneforge Mystic. So just kind of matches well.
Can I pause all the Stoneforge Mystic talk for one thing?
Yeah.
Can I actually just bring up one thing before that?
Go right ahead.
The hype on it, it was the most played creature out of the top 25 decks. There were 20 copies of it, and in second place was Snapcaster with 17. So yeah, they were definitely hyping up the card.
People are extremely happy to be playing it again. It seems like it was a meme that Stoneforge Mystic was still banned in Modern, so I'm sure there was a lot of people who were happy to get that card in Modern.
That's something that was interesting to me as well, is I'm wondering how much of the... Because we saw a lot of Stoneforge in the tournaments, and a few people said this, that it did pretty well. There was something like... Someone said there was something like 7 Stoneforge Mystic decks in the top 16 of SCG Dallas, and they just basically all missed top 8. So a lot of people were talking about how Stoneforge Mystic was just worthless on that weekend, but there were 7 decks in the top 16. You just need to look a little bit past top 8.
I mean, I would take a top 16 placing in a tournament. I mean, top 8's better, but I'll take top 16. That's pretty good.
The other thing is, I was wondering how much of it was actually just people hating out the card, because it was pretty successful, and a lot of people came prepped for it. Like, I wanted to talk about the Rakdos midrange deck, because that deck is kind of like Kolaghan's Command deck. It's just like, you can run all of these spells that interact with a Stoneforge Mystic type of plan. You're almost a cleaner midrange list than a lot of the other midrange lists running around. And you can completely clown on their Stoneforge Mystic. You have mainboard Kolaghan's Command, they go search their thing, you blow up the Batter Skull, you kill the Stoneforge Mystic, and if they don't play it out, they hold it in hand, you have discard spells, you have Liliana, and you probably have a clock beating them in the face.
Yeah, for sure. Looking, and it was in a quarter of the top 25, Kolaghan's Command was. So I would definitely say people were keeping an eye out for Stoneforge.
I'm wondering if Stoneforge might be like, it's not quite the same as Dredge, but like a Dredge situation where there's hate against it, and people know there's hate against it, so they came prepped for it.
So you're thinking Stoneforge decks had a backup plan on top of being a Stoneforge deck?
No, not even that. I'm saying that the people playing these tournaments thought that, hey, my deck doesn't have a very good Stoneforge Mystic matchup, I need to come prep for this, and that hated out some of the Stoneforge Mystic decks. Especially in the winners metagame, where people are more aware of the meta.
Yeah. I think as well, it's important to have your Stoneforge Mystic deck have a backup plan that's not SFM. If your deck is reliant, I think, on Stoneforge Mystic as like one of your main win cons, and it's like, against some decks, that's just not going to be good enough. I was playing a little bit of Storm to practice this week, right? And I played against one of the Stoneforge Mystic decks. one of the kind of derpy ones, and both games I played against them in that match, they got the turn 3 Batter Skull, and then I killed them on turn 3. And it's just like, that's just kind of what happens sometimes, is like, there's some decks that just do not care about your Stoneforge Mystic. You need something faster.
The interesting thing is I was practicing Jund this week, and I don't think I lost to a Stoneforge Mystic deck the whole week. There was not a single game where I saw that card that I was worried. Maybe it's the players I was playing against. I mean, Magic Online is not always the best players, depending on where you're playing in. Maybe this mid-range card doesn't actually go as well in mid-range decks as people think it does, and if it doesn't go in mid-range decks, doesn't seem to be going in control decks, doesn't seem to be going in combo decks, it has to find a deck someplace, and that's when I think we'll actually see it start to put up even better results.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, I'm waiting for Stoneforge to actually just find its deck.
Yeah.
And once it is, I'm not sure what'll happen, but I hope it's not too overwhelming, like something like a Hogak did, where it found its deck immediately and took over the meta.
I don't think we're going to get a Hogak. I don't think we're going to get anything like a Hogak situation. That was hopefully once in a Magic generation. We had
Big oopsie.
Big oopsie, yeah.
It's our version of the Eldrazi Winter. It's the Hogak Summer, because me and Jake at least, weren't around for the Eldrazi Winter. We weren't playing Modern then.
The funny thing is, the Eldrazi Winter wasn't that long ago. It was, 2012?
Not even. No, Eldrazi Winter is like 2015.
Yeah.
2014.
Yeah, so a few years ago for sure, but not that long.
Yeah, we're making it sound like it was like World War II when this happened.
Back in the day when the Eye of the Ugin attacked.
Everything changed when the Eldrazi attacked.
It wasn't even then. It was when, like, it was Oath of the Gatewatch, which is the funnier part. Like, everybody, like, I know a lot of people blame Battle for Zendikar. It's like, they only added one card from Battle for Zendikar. Like, one card from Battle for Zendikar is played in that deck, and it's Endless One.
You mean Colorless Eldrazi?
Yeah.
Colorless Eldrazi had Thought Knot Seer, Reality Smasher, Eldrazi Mimic.
Well, those are all from Oath.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, and just Battle for Zendikar takes the blunt for it.
I mean, it's the Battle for Zendikar block. Just
yeah, but
one day we'll have this episode, I'm sure, where we will have time to talk about this. I hate Eldrazi, and I just wish they were gone from Magic.
Ooh, that's a really good idea for an episode. When we have time, one of the topics we should do is our least favorite things in Magic.
This is potentially a good segue to move on to the announcement stream that happened with all of the new sets coming up, including Throne of Eldraine, unless you wanted to talk about the Open a little bit more.
Yeah, let's go ahead and... I think we've pretty much talked about Modern. We'll have to do a whole Modern episode one of these days and just go into everyone's preferences, what we want unbanned.
Yeah, for sure.
Can I give a sneak peek?
A sneak peek? Give us a sneak peek of what you want unbanned.
Splinter Twin. I dream of the day when we get to start an episode with Unbanned Splinter Twin.
We're going to get so many comments about how dumb we are for wanting Splinter Twin unbanned. I guarantee it.
Well, that's just called the comment section, but I'm not going to get into that.
I'm actually kind of looking forward to it. I know a lot of people, they talk about how it sucks being on the internet because you get all these crappy comments. I kind of want to read some of them. Maybe I'm crazy for that.
Oh, actually, one last thing. One really quick thing. I just think it's really cool to see Burn coming back, making a nice comeback here with 3 of the top 8 decks being Burn.
I didn't even mention what the actual meta is right now. Don't trust this 100% because our data is not good for Magic. It just is the truth. But on MTG Goldfish, we have Burn number 1, Jund number 2, Urza number 3, Control for 4, and then Eldrazi Tron, Emuel Titan, Death Shadow, Titan Shift. Titan Shift coming back is pretty cool too. That was a deck I was interested in back when I was first building my very first Storm deck. I was trying to decide which combo deck I wanted to play. It's great.
Mm-hmm. It's also a good deck to try to get into because Titans are really low and Scape Shift is still in standard, so they're kind of cheap.
That's true. is not that expensive.
I think we'll end our Modern talk with that. If you are looking to get into Modern, go buy Titan Shift. Apparently it's cheap. I think
That
it's
or
still
burn.
$800.
The deck that placed third place is $640 in paper.
And with that, I think we'll move into the next section of the show, where we are going to talk about basically all the announcements this week. We got Throne of Eldraine's trailer. I take it you both have seen the trailer?
Sure have.
Yeah, it took me a couple of days to go watch it, but I finally did, and it's a really good trailer.
It was cool. It was number 7 on trending on YouTube. Just kind of like War of the Spark was like number 3 or something like that at one point. It's kind of cool to see the trailers. It's like actually impacting trending on YouTube.
For real, it's kind of surreal to see how popular Magic's getting nowadays, because I mean, I've only been playing seriously for like 4 years, but it was so small back when I started, and it just seems like there's so many people wanting to play now. So here's someone online, I can't remember who, and I probably wouldn't shout him out anyway just in case they got some flack, but they said that the Throne of Eldraine trailer was better than the War of the Spark one, and I just don't agree. The War of the Spark one was awesome.
Oh yeah, there was nothing bad about the War of the Spark one. Especially for me, I know you guys were sad about Dak, but I don't care about Dak.
Don't get me started. We will have a whole episode about Unbanned Dak, and I want Dak back. Bring him back to life. Oh.
Or you could just reference how Magic the Gathering sometimes doesn't treat their lore and their characters with the most respect. Sometimes.
Just sometimes.
And then, I would just say if you just played the song in it, that it would be better than the entire Throne of Eldraine trailer.
That cover in the end was a good choice. I don't know who made that choice, but you deserve a raise.
My 2005 heart warmed up when I heard it.
So if you haven't seen the trailer, go watch it. But it does feature someone who we mentioned in our nice little intro, Garruk.
Gingerbread.
Gingerbread men are featured. But Garruk. Why do I keep saying him that way?
I don't know,
Garruk.
but I'm just happy that my favorite Magic the Gathering character, the Gingerbread Planeswalkers, were featured, I followed them for years and no one else did, and now they finally got a trailer. They got a card, it's great.
Did Garruk eat a Planeswalker?
No, they are...
Oh, maybe that's why he ate them. His whole thing is killing Planeswalkers, right? He wants to hunt down Planeswalkers now?
Getting real.
He killed the first well, not the first, because I guess there's Karn, but a Planeswalker who was a sentient object.
I swear, if Ginger is a Planeswalker...
They're red and blue.
If Ginger's a Planeswalker card on Ikoria, I'm going to quit Magic.
She survived the fight with Garruk, and she's just like,
She's on Ikoria. I will quit Magic. You have my word right now.
All the Avenge the Fallen memes are just coming back.
It's like Venser with Karn. Like Garruk gets killed by Ginger and gives Ginger his spark.
I think the fact that Garruk is in the set, spoilers for I think next episode is when we're gonna go over that.
Yeah.
Aside from the fact that Garruk is in the set, I would totally believe that. Gingerbread Planeswalker.
I will start playing Yu-Gi-Oh! There's a Gingerbread Man Planeswalker.
Anyway, the trailer was awesome, but we are here for the cards, of course. And the whole spoiler isn't out quite yet, but luckily we got a few that we have picked out as our, I guess, standouts, the ones that we're most interested in from the set. And let's start with Justin's, and a card that I think all three of us picked, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's easily the best card or not the best card, but it's definitely the most playable card, it looks like, that's been spoiled so far. We're a little bit less than half of the set spoiled, but I know a lot of the rest of the set is going to be commons and uncommons. So the card that everyone, I feel like, is hyping up right now is Murderous Rider. To give a quick reading of it, it's a 2/3 zombie knight creature with lifelink. It says when it dies, you put it on the bottom of its owner's library for 1 and 2 black, but it also has the adventure mechanic on it. For the same cost, 1 and 2 black, it's an instant speed, destroy target creature or planeswalker, and you lose 2 life.
if you don't know what the adventure mechanic is, because you haven't been following the articles or anything, it basically makes it so that cards, so far just creatures, they have like an alternate mode, kind of like split cards from Ravnica, and you can cast the adventure part, and as it resolves, it will be exiled, and then you can cast the creature part after the adventure part from exile. So it's kind of like you get 2 cards in one, and you get, in this case, you get to destroy a creature or planeswalker, and then you get a 2/3 lifelinker that never really dies unless someone exiles it.
Yeah, I just realized this right now. Has anybody noticed that they just rebranded Aftermath?
It's really similar, isn't it?
Yeah, except that it exiles instead of going to Graveyard.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just Aftermath.
It reminds me of Rebound. It's really similar to Rebound, but you have to pay for the second half.
Yeah, so there is a little cost in its corner for like the adventure. Like it'll say instant or sorcery with a subtype of adventure. So that's what you cast from your hand, and then it exiles, and then you can pay the cost in the top right of the card, which, like I said, Murderous Rider is 1 and 2 black, and then you get the 2/3 lifelinker that when it dies, it gets put to the bottom.
Yeah, it's as far as cards go, it's kind of gross because you just keep getting back this card into your deck that is just a good draw off the top. If you use the adventure and then cast the second one the second part later, you just 2-for-1 your opponent, which is amazing. I'm kind of a little bit worried with the adventures because it seems like a lot of them don't have the most powerful effects in the game, but the ones that are good, I think, are just going to be insane on the value scale because you get a creature in addition to the effect. So it's just an extra piece of cardboard.
I was about to say, it's kind of like holding 8 cards in your hand at the beginning of a game.
Yeah, it's a lot like having a flashback, actually. That's what I think it's like. It's that,
or Jumpstart.
Yeah. Well, Jumpstart, though, you have to go down a card.
Fair enough.
The other thing that I've seen some people pointing out online is, right now we have 3 mana Teferi Time Raveler. If you cast the creature part of an adventure, and then you bounce it back to hand with Teferi, you can just do the adventure part again. So, like, Murderous Rider has this text on it that says when it dies, you put it to the bottom, so in theory, you could, like, shuffle your deck and get it back, or just go through your entire deck. You don't even have to do that. You just have to unsummon these things back to your hand, and you always have an instant speed removal spell.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
A cheap instant speed removal spell for planeswalkers.
It's a murder with upside, yeah.
It's a hero's downfall.
True.
Yeah, it's
you
literally
lose life.
Hero's Downfall, but with an upside. You do lose 2 life from casting it, but the creature half has lifelink, so it doesn't really even matter. You can just gain back the life.
I was even thinking about that.
As if 2 life has ever been a problem in Magic the Gathering. Looking at you, Phyrexian Mana.
I thought you were gonna... I was gonna just give a quick shout out to all the Thoughtseize players.
Oh, that too.
Oh, well, thank you. I love shoutouts, especially on my own show.
Because I've learned 2 life is the worst payment ever. Like, I could not do that ever. It's why it's a rare, not a mythic.
Do you want to go on to your next card? We could probably talk about Murderous Rider and how good this damn card is all day, but...
Yeah. So, I guess I'll just start it with an uncommon then. I like Savvy Hunter. This one is one of the cards that you could get a playset of if you did the Brawl event on MTGA. It's 1, a black and a green for a creature Human Warrior. That's a 3/3. And when it attacks or blocks, you create a food token. And then you can sacrifice 2 food to draw a card. So, I don't know about you guys, but there's not very many food cards that I like, but this is probably my favorite. Because, just like, it's a 3/3 for 3, so it already passes the power toughness thing. And then you've got the attack and block, so it can chump all day if you really feel like it, and then draw 2 cards off of it, and you can draw before the creature even dies, if you have the second food token.
Reminds me a little bit of Treasure Map, but like as a creature. It just seems like a pretty solid creature, and there is a black-green mid-range deck in Standard that could easily run this.
The deck doesn't lose a lot either, so it's looking for a few more payoffs because Jade Light Ranger and the whole Explore package is rotating, so this is a good way to draw cards with the absence of that.
It's a very powerful engine, and I think if you're able to play with a couple of things that get you food tokens as well, that way you can draw like right when it hits the field. It reminds me a lot of Tireless Tracker.
It is a little bit like a not as good Tireless Tracker, and we're going to go over it probably next episode, but there's a lot of food payoffs in this set. There's way more than I thought there would be.
Yeah, I think that's all you can really say about that one. It just seems like a solid card.
All right, so it looks like after that I got Harmonious Archon. It's a mythic rare, a 4 and 2 white creature Archon. That's a 4/5 flying creature. That says all non-Archon creatures, it's a 4/5 flyer that says non-Archon creatures have base power and toughness 3/3. And when it enters the battlefield, you create 2 1/1 human creature token. With this one, I may have just actually read it a little bit better, but I still like the card because it puts 10 power on the board the second it enters. But I did realize that also includes your opponent's creatures.
Well, that can be that's almost an upside to the card. If you're on turn 7 and their Carnage Tyrant's rotating, but just imagine if you...
Like a Nullhide Ferox.
Yeah, Nullhide Ferox. You turn their 6/6 into a 3/3. It still has hexproof, but if you have 2 3/3s as well, and you're trading up those 1/1s into their 4-drop, their 5-drop, this seems like a really solid card. It's expensive, but...
I see it as a very late game thing, but I also see it as a very good just beater in the air, honestly.
Also, if you have this in your pre-release pack, play it.
For sure. And maybe just to also see a little combo off here with the card Witch's Vengeance, since you can just choose a creature type and they get -3/-3. Works really well with that as well.
Yeah, that's a really cool. That's a cool little janky thing to do.
That's a really... Yeah, it's just like a board wipe that leaves you with a 4/5. That's not bad.
Or whatever other creature types you have that they don't have. Yeah, I don't know. I just like the idea of paying 6 mana for 10 power, especially when 4 of it's in the air.
Yeah, the flying really does take this kind of from like a big beater that I don't think would do much to maybe a possibility.
Yeah, if you've got a big beater, it probably needs some form of evasion to be effective, just because you don't want getting chump blocked until they eventually top deck a removal spell for it.
What's your next card, Justin?
Looks like next here, I've got Dragonlord Ojutai. Shimmer Dragon. It's 4 and 2 blue for a 5/6 flyer. And it says as long as you control 4 or more artifacts, it has hexproof. And then you can tap 2 untapped artifacts you control to draw a card. So it's just better Dragonlord Ojutai.
And correct me, isn't this from the Brawl deck?
Yes, this is in the Brawl deck. It's so good, in my opinion. Like, there's so many cheap artifacts, and you've also got, like, Tezzeret, Master of the Bridge, that can work with him, too. Oh my lord, just giving it hexproof. It's your guys' favorite keyword.
It's kind of got that, like, Sphinx of the Final World feel, but it also can just draw you a bunch of cards.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty good.
I mean, if you're playing a deck that has a lot of artifacts in it, it seems really good. Like, try out the Affinity deck and see if it slots into that thing.
And just to also point it out, food tokens are artifacts.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I didn't even think of that. That makes this card... I could see a lot of things with this card now.
Yeah.
I want to say it's one of the highest, to pre-order it, I think it's one of the highest costed right now. Because it's just so good in basically every facet of it. It's just does better things than a lot of other cards. And even at 6 mana.
That's crazy.
I don't see it being that big of a deal. So that looks like my card. So, anything else on Shimmer Dragon?
Oh, no, actually, that's okay. I was just going to say, yeah, it does seem really good. I'm just sitting here thinking about it and thinking of artifacts that you could play with it in Standard. And there's a few, actually. Like, there might be an artifact deck with that in it in Standard right now. I'd have to go look, but I don't want to.
And there's also equipments if you wanted to think of that as well.
That's true. I don't want to turn
'Cause
this
it would
into
get
a brewing
hexproof.
session, so I'm not going to go look them all up. But there's actually some decent artifacts in Standard right now.
I mean, I'm just thinking, like, Guild Globe is kind of playable. There's some stuff in Core Set 2020, I think.
Also, Manifold Key.
Oh, man, yeah, that's like one of the ones I was thinking of. I just couldn't think of it. Manifold Key doesn't seem bad at all. You can make it unblockable in the air?
Print Urza into Standard, you cowards.
No, please no. I don't want to talk about Urza and the things he's doing over in Modern. So let's move on to Jordan's cards.
Okay. We're going to the top shelf. We're going for the Royal Scions. If you haven't seen this card, it is a mythic rare planeswalker. It costs 1, a blue and a red, 3 total. Its +1 is draw a card, then discard a card. +1, target creature gets +2/+0 and gains first strike and trample until end of turn. And -8, draw 4 cards. When you do, the Royal Scions deals damage to any target equal to the number of cards in your hand.
Jordan, you forgot an important detail there. What is the starting loyalty of this planeswalker?
Oh yeah, it is 5.
5. So it's a 3-cost walker that pluses up for 2 good abilities up to 6.
Yeah. So I was a little worried that my favorite deck in Standard, rest in peace in Modern, Arclight Phoenix, but in Standard you can still play Phoenix. And I was a little scared that without all the discard outlets that we had, because those are all rotating, then we wouldn't be able to play a deck similar to that anymore. And the Royal Scions is kind of the perfect 3-mana card to start binning your Phoenixes and churning through your deck. So I'm expecting this to be played in that. The other thing about it is that in a red-blue build, in a lot of red-blue builds, this is just awesome. Like, that ultimate can actually dome people for lethal. If you're playing like a counterburn strategy, there's so many things about this card that seem good. And like the +1 on a Crackling Drake or Enigma Drake. Yeah, because Enigma Drake was printed into... What does Enigma...
M19.
No, I think Enigma Drake is out. It's rotating.
Dang it.
Yeah.
But with Crackling Drake, you can swing in the air with your Crackling Drake and give it first strike and trample. And that's crazy. That is so good.
This card gives me like mini Dak Faden feels, which is sad because they killed Dak Faden. But the card just seems great. I just imagine giving an Arclight Phoenix that you just brought back like first strike and trample, and then swinging with it. That's 5 damage in the air, and then if they have a chump blocker somehow, it doesn't matter.
Sadly, you can't do that because the Arclight Phoenix triggers on combat.
Oh, good point.
But you could have one sitting on the field from last turn and do it.
Mhm.
I'm just trying to figure out how to give Arclight Phoenix trample, okay?
I mean, there's ways in Standard that you could do it.
This card seems great.
Yeah, I was skeptical at first, just because at first I thought it was a minus ability for the +2 first strike trample, and I looked at it, and then I thought it said 3 starting loyalty. So I was really skeptical of it, but the more I looked at it, I was like, this card's actually really good.
It seems to be a theme with this set of like planeswalkers with too much loyalty.
Yeah.
But they were doing that back in Dragons of Tarkir with Narset, where people freaked out because she started at 6.
There's a lot of loyalty.
Well, it's interesting because I haven't thought of where else I might put this besides a deck like Phoenix. Now that I'm thinking about it, it might not fit very well in that deck, but there are a lot of good ways to fill up your hand with it as well that are currently in standards, that are in Standard after rotation, I should say. So that ultimate can easily just dome your opponent for a lot of damage and finish them off if you have been, like playing kind of a tempo strategy where you've just hit them a couple of times.
I think in the type of deck that would play this, that -8 basically just says win the game.
But if we want to bring up a funny combo with this, is Bag of Holding.
Ooh.
Where when you +1, you just put it under the Bag of Holding, and before you ultimate it, you crack it and put it in your hand. Put them all in your hand.
Oh my god, I didn't even think of that. That is awesome.
And it comes down on turn 1, so you have like a whole... Mm-hmm. You can have it down by the time this hits the field very easily.
Yeah, you can turn 1, that, turn 2, Tormenting Voice, turn 3, Royal Scions.
I think turn 2, I'd probably just like leave up mana or play a threat, something to put pressure on the board. But yes, you could also Tormenting Voice. There's a lot of things you could do. But yeah, all in all, this card seems awesome. I'm so excited to play it. So next one is Wildborn Preserver. So it is a 1 and a green for an elf archer with flash and reach. Whenever a non-human creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay X. When you do, put X +1/+1 counters on Wildborn Preserver.
It's a bear, by the way. It's a 2/2.
And it's a 2/2. Yeah, sorry, I forgot about that. Now, I picked this because it's a bear with upside, which isn't that good, but I mostly picked it because the elves on Eldraine ride giant foxes, and that is fantastic. I love everything about it. Please do this more.
For context, yeah, the art on this is an elf riding a giant fox, and I'm not even into foxes like Jordan is, but this art got me. It looks amazing. This whole set it gets me. I love all the art. I love all the flavor. It's great.
Yeah, this one took me a minute to understand. I was like, what? Why is it an elf? It's just a fox.
It's an elf archer, but the art's just showing a fox. What is happening?
Yeah, it took me a minute to see him. He kind of blends in.
Talking about the card, though, it's interesting because this is not the only card in the set that has you trying to play non-humans. And there's a lot of like random tribal stuff going on. So I'd be interested to try to find like a deck for this.
So that's part of the reason I had this on my list is not only do I like the art, but the reason why I bring it up is because there's also a black card that pays you off for playing elves. It deals, I think it's when it enters, it either deals damage every time an elf enters the battlefield, like it causes loss of life, actually.
Let me just find it.
Yeah, go look it up.
But yeah, the only problem, or not a problem, but the only worry I have about the card is it's just super susceptible to you going, all right, let me dump X mana into it, and then they Murderous Rider it, or they just remove it. Like, it just doesn't seem like a good mana dump since it doesn't protect itself in any kind of way.
Yes and no. So the main
pause for a second.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that card exists, Jordan.
No, it does.
Yeah. I'm not seeing it.
Hold up.
There's Sir Conrad, but that's not elves.
All right, I saw it on Twitter.
It might be something new that hasn't been uploaded yet.
Oh yeah, hold up. Here it is. It's Ayara, First of Lochthwain. Whenever it enters the battlefield or another black creature enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So it's an elf noble. The only problem with it is that it doesn't trigger off of elves, it triggers off of black creatures. However, she's an elf noble and she's in black, which means there's probably other black elves, which makes me wonder if there's a black-green elves list that you could play. And that's what made me excited for Wildborn Preserver. I was looking at it, I was like, wait, is there a black-green elf ball style of deck, kind of like what Modern has in this set? In this standard, I should say. But yeah, that's the reason why I put Wildborn Preserver there.
Alright, what's your next card, Jordan?
So, the next one is pretty typical for me because I like 2 things above all else in Magic. It's blue-red decks, and then burn. So my next card is Slaying Fire. This is a 2 generic, 1 red, instant. Slaying Fire deals 3 damage to any target. However, it has their new mechanic Adamant on it. Adamant says, if at least 3 red mana was spent to cast this spell, it deals 4 damage instead. So Adamant is if you use 3 of one type of mana to cast the spell, you get an additional effect, kind of like Kicker. So this is 3 mana deal 4 to any target, which is nuts. With the amount of good burn we have in Standard already, this is amazing.
With the Shocklands in Standard still, when this is in there, it's going to be way too easy to get the 3 red mana for this instead of just playing in mono red.
I don't even... Honestly, a lot of the cards I'm seeing kind of point towards mono red still being powerful. We didn't lose that much from rotation, and on top of that, we're getting this as a burn spell. There was another like 1-drop I saw that had haste and first strike. It looked really good. I don't have it in front of me though. Man, just some of these cards, I am excited to pick up my mono red list and like actually convert it for this new set.
I'm also extremely hyped to play mono red because we've got, just off the top of my head, we still have the 2 red goblin that sacks itself and deals damage. We still have the phoenix that deals damage, that flies and gets pumped if you deal non-combat damage. Like, I'm really excited to play mono red.
Yeah, the cavalcade version looks gross.
Yeah, that too.
Especially since the lightning strike is rolling out of standard, so it's got to be something to replace it, and I think this is just the perfect card to replace it.
Yeah.
Still get shock, though.
Yep. You never won't have it.
And we still have Lava Coil. Okay, and then I have one more bonus card that I just want to mention. This isn't really a card I'm excited to play, because I don't think it's very good, but it is very cool, and I want to bring it up because I think it means something. Get your tinfoil hats on. This card is Embercleave. Embercleave is 4 mana, double red, flash. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each attacking creature you control. When it enters the battlefield, you attach it to target creature you control. Equipped creature has +1/+1 and double strike and trample. So, this card is a lot of fun if you're swinging with a bunch of little dudes and you need to finish them. That's really cool.
I think I know where you're going with this.
The other thing that I think we were going to talk about as well is upcoming sets. Like Zendikar Rising just got announced, and I made the prediction last week that Stoneforge Mystic is going to get reprinted in a standard. And oh look, things you could tutor with Stoneforge Mystic, but that you wouldn't necessarily really break the game if you put on the field for free. I'm just saying.
So your prediction is that... No, I want this in the podcast. I want you to say it. Your prediction is that they are going to reprint Stoneforge Mystic into the new Zendikar set.
Yes, because that's the only place it would make sense, because Stoneforge Mystic is a core, and I was saying, well, maybe they'll just have a core on one of these planes. But then they announced Zendikar Rising, and I'm like, they're going to reprint it. Because they have all these colored equipments in the new set that are not, they're not amazing, but you could play janky, cool games with them in Stoneforge Mystic. And I'm just like, this is signaling. They are having, and it makes sense because core interact with equipment, so that's why they're printing all these for Zendikar Rising, and that's like, it's signaling. Like the Stoneforge Mystic reprint, it is imminent.
Do you want to bring this up? There is a chance that they don't even need to wait for Zendikar, because technically Stoneforge Mystic is Nahiri. So you could technically shoehorn that Nahiri went to another plane and is the Stoneforge Mystic there, but that's a far-fetched guess there.
Is the card supposed to depict Nahiri? I thought it was just a Stoneforge Mystic, and she is a Stoneforge Mystic. I thought that was just a female core.
No, about 98% sure that that's Nahiri on that art.
I don't think it's Nahiri, no, because all of the core interact with equipment.
I know that, but
that's like their thing.
No, she's wearing the same shirt and everything.
Yeah, but that's because Nahiri's a core. They dress similarly. I'm sure they have like kind of the same styles.
I don't know. You guys can chime off in like the comments and on YouTube.
Yell at us. Tell us how it's a Nahiri, and then I will tell you you're wrong.
I'm 95% sure that is Nahiri. And by 95, I mean 98.
And by 98, he means 99.
By 99, I mean yes.
Either way, though, Embercleave is a sweet card. And I'm not sure I want Stoneforge Mystic in Standard, but they need to reprint it somewhere. That card's expensive as hell now.
I just would like to go get my Embercleave, and then you swing in with your dudes and you put your Embercleave on your thing because you got to tutor it. I think it's cool.
Alright. We should probably move on. We're getting a little long here.
We'll jump right into my picks next because we're done with Conspiracy Corner with Jordan.
Tinfoil hats.
So, tinfoil hats. Tinfoil hats made by a core artificer.
Mine's off.
So, my very first card that I saw that I was just so excited about was Wicked Wolf. So Wicked Wolf is 2 green for a 3/3. Creature Wolf. When Wicked Wolf enters the battlefield, it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. Sacrifice a food. Put a +1/1 counter on Wicked Wolf. It gains indestructible until end of turn, and you tap it. So the main reason I'm excited for Wicked Wolf is that Wolf Tribal is continuing to be supported. But on top of that, this card just looks really gross in a mid-range, like, green shell with food. I'm just imagining scenarios where you come out with this card, you play it, and you have 2 food down, you trade for something that's 5 toughness, and have a 5/5 that currently has indestructible and can gain indestructible again.
I was going to say, not to mention, it combos well with Tolsimir and the, what's the name of the flashy wolf with the 4/4?
Night Pack Ambusher.
Yeah. Goes well. Like, the Wolf Tribal's synergy is going to go really well in those mid-range decks.
Tolsimir makes it fight twice, by the way. So you can have 2 fights with an indestructible 4/4.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. This definitely just reminds me of even though it was an all-star in standard, it reminds me of a beefed up long tusk cub.
I didn't get long tusk cub vibes because cub was a bear and it just got counters. This card reminds me a lot of another card from that same deck, Bristling Hydra. It's got like the same stat line. It has the same ability of just like, I'm never going to get removed.
Yeah, that sounds really oppressive if you get that down on the field, especially if you do have a Tolsimir and it's fighting 2 things. So it's 2 for 1s you. No, 3 for 1s you, and then also sticks on the field to be a threat later, and then also gets buffed by the other flashy wolf, and just, no. All but no. Goodness, that's good.
I'm just going to say we're going to miss Vraska's Contempt.
Oh, no.
And if you have Arlen, because for some reason you're playing bad cards, rip Arlen, it gets an additional counter when it enters, so then you don't have to sack any food to make it a 4/4.
My lord.
Wolf Tribal lives.
It just keeps getting better.
I think it might be too slow and a little bit too clunky, but this card on its own, in just any shell with food in it, I think will be good.
Yeah, I could see this winning a lot of drafts. Like, if you pull this in your pack, you have a very good chance of winning the draft if you can get it, like, once a match even.
Heaven forbid you get, like, an Ember Cleave and just shove it on there.
Oh my god, Embercleave. Too good. Okay.
Alright. My second card, which is 100%, this is 100% personal. It's just, I like this card, and it will probably not be good in standard, is Piper of the Swarm.
What does it mean? What does it do?
Piper of the Swarm is a human warlock 1/3 for 1 and a black. Rats you control have menace. You can pay 1 and a black, tap it to make a 1/1 black rat creature token. Pay 2 and 2 black to sacrifice 3 rats, and you have to tap it. Gain control of target creature. The main reason I want this card is because I have a rat commander deck. I own Marrow-Gnawer, and it has been approximately 3 years since I've put an actually new card in it.
Hey, Jake, why don't you try saying Marrow-Gnawer one more time?
Marrow-Gnawer.
Alright. Yeah, no, Piper the Swarm is, it's not going to see play in standard at all. Not going to happen. However, it looks awesome in draft. Like, that I will be picking that so fast the table will burn beneath me if that shows up in my draft.
And if you have a rat commander deck, it slots right in, and you can start stealing people's stuff, which is awesome.
Or if you're dumb like me, you just play Arcane Adaptation and name Rat.
That does sound fun.
I think Arcane Adaptation is rotating, which makes me really sad, because that would be a lot of fun to play this with that card, play like blue-black.
Yeah, you play it with the thief that steals something when it enters.
You could have played Sultai with it, and then made a bunch of 1/1s using the Saprolinks. Yeah.
I remember hearing a rumor that this set was supposed to come like after Dominaria, and they switched it to get to War of the Spark quicker. I 100% believe that, seeing some of these synergies.
Yeah, seems about right. I mean, you'll be able to play it in Historic.
That's true. Maybe they were thinking about MTG Arena, and they're like, they can have this sweet synergy in Historic.
I do want to just point out this weird thing. Like, it's weird to see the creature type Warlock.
Yeah,
like, you don't see that often.
There's a couple Warlocks in this set, and I'm interested because I think they're going to do an update. There's also apparently a rules announcement coming out next week in accordance with a couple of things in the set, which I'm really interested in.
Interesting. Yeah, it just doesn't look like a Warlock either. It kind of reminds me of that, one of the first cards that got spoiled, the little girl, where she's a berserker, but she looks like she's 6.
It's Flaxen Hunter.
Yeah. Goldilocks.
She's a tiny little Goldilocks looking girl.
Who's a berserker.
She's a human berserker. She's a 1/2 berserker.
That's just kind of what it reminds me of with the whole Warlock on this guy who's dooting around.
So my final card, which is the one that I actually think will see a lot of standard play, it's probably my favorite card that's been spoiled, and it's possible that this could see modern play in a couple of shells. It's Rankle, Master of Pranks. 2 black for a 3/3 flying haste. Whenever Rankle, Master of Pranks deals combat damage to a player, choose any number. Each player discards a card, each player loses 1 life and draws a card. Each player sacrifices a creature. This card is gross. For some context, apparently the rules say that you go in order, so you discard a card, lose a life, draw a card, and then sack a creature. There is so much sack fodder in Standard right now because of the Rakdos Guild. And this card slots right in there and does everything you want it to. You need cards, you draw cards. You need to get cards out of their hand, you make them discard. You need to sack your guys to finish them off, it does it. And it's a 3/3 flying haste.
Yeah, and for only 4 mana. Like, think of that value for on turn 4 to smack him for 3, take a card out of his hand. Yeah, he draws a card afterwards, but still, and then get rid of your creature that couldn't block it in the first place.
For 4 mana, I'm not sure if it's quite there, especially in the Rakdos decks, because they're so low to the ground, but it definitely could find a place, I think.
I do not know what you're talking about, low to the ground.
No?
The average mana cost of that deck is like 2 or 3. It's not 1-drops everywhere.
Oh, yeah? I was thinking of the Mardu and Rakdos sacrifice decks that I've seen. They play creatures, the small creatures that come back from the graveyard.
Most of them are playing Gutter Bones for value, but that's exactly what you want to be doing with this card, is like sacking something like Gutter Bones to break the parity, so you're sacking something that just comes back. And on top of that, since it needs to deal damage to do this, Gutter Bones can only come back from your graveyard if an opponent has taken damage, so it triggers the Gutter Bones once you sack it.
Okay, yeah, I guess that makes sense. That does sound pretty good.
On top of that, you have Mayhem Devil, which will ping them when you sack things. You can play Judith, which will ping a second time. I think it's just great. I think it takes that deck to the next level. I'm buying like 27 of them.
If you say so.
I did want to bring up one more card, sure. Actually, just as a little idea of something I'd like to build, actually, because we were going on about the Piper, and there was another card that I actually really liked the idea of, because I was thinking about it in Death and Taxes, and I'm like, crap, I read the card wrong again. But it's Charming Prince, where it's 2/2 for 1 and a white, creature, human noble, and when it enters you choose 1, you either scry 2, gain 3 life, or you blink a creature you own. And I was just, thinking about this whole stealing people's creatures deck, so if you can somehow ramp into an Agent of Treachery, this guy becomes obnoxious with him.
That does seem really mean. You just play, for 2 mana, I steal your guy.
And also, they can, if you really want to, you can get not infinite ETBs, but you can get a lot of ETBs off of them if you have 2 of them on the field. But that's neither here nor there. I like the idea of having Agent of Treachery with this 2-drop that could potentially just destroy your opponent and steal all their creatures. Also, quick side note, it says you own, so if they steal your creature, you can get it back.
Oh, I just realized something about that. So the other creature says you can blink something, right?
Mm-hmm.
That goes in the party bus deck. If you're watching this and you don't know about the party bus deck, there's a couple of people who've played it online. Go type in, I think it's Mardu or Esper party bus in standard. It's a hoot to watch. It is amazing. It gets infinite exile triggers to get value and eventually kill the opponent.
So I think we pretty much got all the cards we were really excited about after this spoiler dump. We will probably be doing a full spoiler cast next week when we have the full set. We didn't want to throw too much time onto it because we don't have all the cards. I don't know if maybe there's something better than Rankle.
Yeah, you never know.
It's very unlikely, but maybe there's an uncommon that's just like, oh, that's way better than Rankle in the sacrifice decks.
I mean, there is a card that's better than Rankle. It's not better than the sacrifice decks, but it's Royal Scions.
I was gonna go with the Murderous Rider.
I think we all agree Murderous Rider is probably the most played card out of the cards we've picked so far. It's gonna see just a slew of decks.
And I'd be confident in saying that it will be the most played card from this set. I feel very confident even with all the spoilers not out yet. It's so good. It's so much value.
I'm gonna wait for the full set, but apparently pick up your copies now.
I wouldn't pick them up now. They're probably really overpriced.
Okay, so I think we've pretty much gone over most of the cards from the dump that we would like to talk about. We'll move on to the final bit of news that we had this week, which was basically just a set announcement. They announced the next few sets coming up, and I'll just read them off right now. I have them up. So, we have Throne of Eldraine coming out a couple weeks from now. The set after that is going to be Theros Beyond Death. So we're going back to Theros.
Elspeth definitely won't be there.
Elspeth definitely will not be there. Plot twist. After Theros, we're going to get another set in quarter 2 of 2020, which is Ikoria, Lair of Behemoths. We're going to talk about these, obviously, but I'm really excited for this one. Then we get Core 2020 in the summer. And finally, our final set, quarter 4 2020, is Zendikar Rising. So we're doing a return to Zendikar. A lot like Ravnica, actually. This is our third time being back. So guys, what do you think of the new sets?
So I can't wait for them to throw us for a loop, and everybody's like, oh, it's going to be about Elspeth. And then there's like, bam, it's about Heliod.
Bam, it's actually about Gideon.
It's about Daxos.
No, Gideon. We just killed Gideon, and he's back now.
Gideon, Daxos become best bros.
Gideon just comes back from the dead. I'm excited for Theros. The heroic mechanic will probably come back, I imagine.
I mean, with Feather, it's pretty much guaranteed, right?
Oh God, no, never mind. Let's change it. Theros comes last. We're going to Zendikar first.
Oh wait, Feather does rotate before. Oh no.
No, she's Ravnica. Or first Ravnica.
Feather and heroic together at last.
Gross.
So I think we saw a few cards in this set too that have like really crazy hybrid mana costs, like 4 white red, white red, white red, white red. 4 white
4
red
hybrid
hybrid.
So Return of Devotion, yeah, sounds about right.
Ooh.
The thing I'm excited for is because I don't really want a return to all of the same mechanics. It'd be interesting to see them do what they did with Ravnica, where they did a bunch of new mechanics that are kind of similar to what the guilds did before. Like, like they didn't bring back Dredge, they did Undergrowth, which Undergrowth was super underwhelming. Hee. But yeah, I'd really like to see, because we're going to get enchantments and stuff, but I want to see, what haven't we done with enchantments before? I want to see what they do to innovate on it, because they're definitely not going to do the exact same thing again, I hope.
Yeah, I'd hope not, because Last thing you really want is a carbon copy of another set. Just like copy and pasted, because it just feels like a waste of time at that point, in my opinion.
I agree, but as someone who did not get to play Theros, I'm kind of excited to go back and explore some of those mechanics and actually have them in Standard.
Can we pretty much say, as a podcast, Devotion is confirmed? Like, there's no way they're not going to do at least Devotion again.
Yeah, I think Devotion is just happening.
Yeah, it seems kind of scary, especially with some of these good cards that are coming out, like the when a black creature enters, everybody loses a life and you gain a life. That seems like a really scary Devotion card, if you ask me.
Do you think they might do gods again, like reprints of the gods, or like new versions?
I think they'll highlight a couple. I think they'll highlight like Erebos and Athreos, but I don't think they're going to highlight every single one.
Yeah.
Reprint Eidolon of the Great Revel.
So, what about Ikoria? So, I have a theory about this, and I'm actually going to hear Justin's theory first, because you just told me that you had a theory, and I want to know what it is. Because I also have a theory about this set.
It's kind of weird. So I feel like they're going to do something along the lines of like they did in Unstable with Augment. I don't want them to, but just to quickly quote Mark Rosewater from the actual video, he's saying that it's a monster world and that you play and make monsters. And he says that it's going to have the craziest mechanics in quite a while.
I mean, that sounds interesting to me. I like the idea of them swinging for the fence and just doing crazy stuff.
But I'm trying to think how that would work. Like, is it...
I doubt it would be anything quite as crazy as the augment mechanic, but I am a kind of sad to hear that. I didn't watch the video originally, but on Mark Rosewater's blog, he talked about how they were working on an Atlantis set, and I'm really hoping that this is that type of set. Like, I really wanted to see them do Atlantis, like underwater all over the place, and people just swimming around, a bunch of merfolk. Sounded great, and maybe it's both. Maybe it's a monster set and it's Atlantis based. I don't know.
So the problem with that idea is it's a layer of the behemoths, and from what I think, behemoths aren't really an underwater thing. But I just want to ask, was this said before or after Ixalan?
I actually don't remember. Probably after, because I wasn't really following most of the online stuff with him or anything really before Ixalan.
Okay. I guess if I want to go as crazy as mechanic-wise, it would be something along the lines of, like, some cards are flip cards, and when you play two cards, you can combine them, and you flip them over, and they make some weird creature.
Maybe something like Meld from Eldritch Moon, kinda?
I think they would do... Maybe what he's referencing is that the mechanic works similar to the unstable mechanic, where if you put the cards, like maybe you have to like stack the cards like it's an equipment, like the other monster equips to the creature. Something like that? I don't know.
How do you make a behemoth with cards?
That's the only thing I can think
really
of is
weird.
It's like a creature is like an enchantment or an equipment, or maybe you turn it on its side. I don't know.
You fold the card in half, make an origami swan, and then that's your monster.
And if you can make a better origami swan, it gets +1/+1.
And if you stack your origami swans together, it gains you 3 life.
The fact that we're having this conversation seems pretty cool, honestly. I'm excited for Ikoria.
Yeah, I think out of the ones they've talked about, that's my favorite, just because it's the new plane, and I love new planes. I like these visiting back to old planes, but new stuff. Want more of it.
Also, it's just really mysterious sounding. Just like you have no clue what they're talking about when they say you play with monsters and you make monsters. It's like, I already do play with monsters, and I technically make them by casting them, so what do you actually mean by this?
Maybe it's like kaiju.
Listen, I just had the image of Justin, like, throwing a bone for a monster and just like, here boy, and I'm just gonna have to mute my mic because I can't stop laughing.
I mean, just to bring it back to the whole meld thing, I just want to point out that I was super sad that Kaladesh didn't have a mechanic called Weld, where you do the same thing but with artifacts.
No.
I was super sad.
No welding.
It would be so cool.
Do not make Goblin Welder a mechanic. Not a good idea.
Alright, and then the final set, Q4 of 2020, Zendikar Rising.
We skipped M20. Or M21. It's Teferi.
There's a Teferi base core set. There's not a lot to dig into there.
Who
They're probably going to
cares?
print 3 Teferis. Yeah.
Print 3 Teferis. One says make 2 1/1 wizards that exile at the end of turn. And
I actually am kind of down on the Teferi set because there's 2 of him in standard, and one of them is one of the grossest cards I've ever seen, and the other one's just really good.
I just hope they make them really bad. I just hope they make the mythic one like absolutely unplayable.
Maybe.
I hope they make a mono blue one.
That'd be cool.
It's like +1, draw a card, then discard a card. -2, draw 2 cards and discard 2 cards. -8, draw 4 cards, discard 4 cards.
You know, you try to make this bad,
Something
and that's just okay.
horrible.
That's not a bad card. That's not really that bad. That's okay.
This happens with
But it's
Justin
like 6
a lot.
mana.
He like tries to make bad cards, and then we're like, that's actually busted.
No.
It would depend on the mana
Stop.
cost. If you got that for like 6, then it's busted.
6 mana.
Yeah, if that was 2, then that's busted. If you got it for 6, no, that's awful.
Alright, so Zendikar Rising. So I was excited for this set, and now talking about it, I'm a little bit off of it.
And why is that?
So they did say this, but I get the feeling there is no way that Eldrazi are not somehow printed in this set. If there is not a single Eldrazi printed, I will be floored and excited. But I get the feeling there's going to be Eldrazi in the set, and I hate Eldrazi. I want Zendikar to be Zendikar. I didn't play during Zendikar, but they sold it as like this fantasy adventure that you were running around this crazy land and finding treasure and getting into traps. That's not what Battle for Zendikar, and that's not what Oath of the Gatewatch was. Those sets were Eldrazi dot sets, and I don't want that ever again.
I agree. I really hope my dream for this set, I should say, is the original like idea of Zendikar. I want a set that's just adventure. That sounds awesome to me. I want Level Up to come back. That'd be cool. Level Up's a really good mechanic, I think. Maybe Landfall would be nice. The rest of it, the other mechanics that they made with Zendikar, you can leave those. I don't know, come up with new stuff. But I'd really like to see a return of Landfall. That'd be a lot of fun, I think.
But don't you want a return of Devoid?
No.
So they're gonna print Eldrazi cards, but they're gonna print Eldrazi cards in different ways. Like, I feel like they're gonna make like it'd be cool if they kept wastes in, because like let's say it's not fully recovered yet, like Zendikar hasn't fully recovered, so there's still wastes, and there's like artifacts that are colorless that reference Eldrazi, but there's no like actual creatures, because I trust Wizards. I think they'll do it. I think they'll be like, nope, no Eldrazi here. I think I'm on the other side of Landfall. I think it's just been here a little too long since it's been printed on cards that don't have Landfall. I think we've just dealt with enough Landfall at this point.
Yeah, like Tireless Tracker.
Tireless Tracker, Tatiova, who's been like not running over, but has been a really good commander card.
Hold up. Tatiova is not good. You just dislike Tatiova because I play her.
Tatiova's been proven to be a good commander by multiple people.
So, let me spark another little bit of fire in everyone. Do you think we're getting fetch lands?
No.
No.
Everyone stop. It's not
I think we'll
happening.
finish the Battlelands.
I think that there is no way that this set comes out and there are not fetch lands in it.
Why? They said they didn't want to reprint those. They said it broke standard and made things too expensive, they said there's no reason to do that.
They also said protection was never coming back. And they've also said, Mark Rosewater said this in his State of the Game address, that he feels that they have watered down Magic too much and that it needs to be more complex again. And fetch lands definitely make the game a little bit more complex.
I think they've already done that, though. Because we've had 2 or 3 year sets now, where things like with the Ravnica sets, we have a diversity of mechanics. We had one set that was all planeswalkers. We've got the complexity back. Like, look at Risen Reef and the board states that leads to. Or actually just standard in general right now.
I was about to say, the Field of the Dead interactions and stuff like that.
Exactly. They don't need to add fetch lands to that, and I don't think they want to. I think that protection coming back and fetch lands coming back they're leagues apart, because one of these things makes standard really unpleasant and really expensive, and then one of them was taken out of the game for basically no reason. Like, the only reason they took protection out is because R&D thought it was bad. No one ever said they disliked protection. Like, there was not an outcry from players about this. It's just R&D decided one day.
Well, part of it was the same reason that Shroud was removed, that it made some feel-bads, where it's like, I have this thing with protection from red, and I'm trying to target with red, or just, I'm playing a mono red deck, and it has protection from red, so I can't do anything about this card. And I think that reasoning for why they removed protection for so long is a good example of why fetch lands are completely fine. Because sometimes I think fetch lands are completely fine because some of the fun of Magic is these weird little things. The fact that you have to go get lands out of your deck and shuffle your deck and put them on the field. And a lot of people, they like to say that that's not fun, it's annoying. But the people who are saying that are competitive players who have to shuffle their deck and do this like 13 times a game, and they do it over a 14-round tournament. Wizards keeps those people in mind, but they don't seem to design directly for those people. I think that for the casual player and a lot of their market, fetch lands are a huge draw for a set. It'll sell a bunch of product, and they need to reprint them to have Modern be a playable format that people besides really rich people or really invested players will actually want to get into.
I mean, I hear what you're saying. I still hope that they don't. I feel like there's a reasonable chance that they could, I guess. I still don't think it's going to happen because, and I hope it doesn't happen. I really hope it doesn't happen because putting the fetch lands into standard is not going to drop their price by that much. It's just going to drive the price up. Because you're adding a lot more demand. Yes, you're increasing the supply, but you're like more than doubling the demand. And I really don't want, I know they're not balancing around historic, but I really don't want fetch lands in historic because I'm tired of all of my Magic formats having the same land bases. Have a little bit of diversity. Like, just do the battle lands. Where else are we going to put those but in a Zendikar set?
I think the battle lands are probably the biggest argument as to why there won't be fetch lands. It's a cycle they want to complete, and unless they do a second Zendikar set, they would have to do all 10 fetches in the same set. So that's probably the biggest thing I could see of why they wouldn't do fetches. Not even the gameplay design things. I think they don't care about the gameplay and design things. I think it's 100% how do we get this into a product that people will buy. But I'm cynical like that. I think that Wizards has very little motivations that are not started with how do we make money off of this? Which makes sense, their business.
I guess just to throw my 2 cents in on this, I agree with the fetch lands shouldn't be in standard because it'll actually make them more expensive. Right now, what's happening is only modern players want the fetch lands.
And Legacy players.
But when it gets printed into Standard, yeah.
Hold up. Small correction. Commander players want the fetch lands, modern players want the fetch lands, Legacy players want the fetch lands, Canadian Highlander players want the fetch lands. They're the best land cycle probably since the dual lands. Every single format that can play them wants fetch lands.
Yeah, so let me correct myself there. Everybody outside of Standard wants these. Now let's add this crowd that's almost, like, I don't know how much, if it is or isn't bigger than Modern, but it's still a large crowd that now needs those lands as well. So technically you're driving up the supply, but I would almost think you're making it more scarce that way, even if it's like an unlimited print run.
I mean, we could talk about MTG finance all day long, but we are getting pretty low on time here. So I think in general we're all pretty excited for Zendikar, though, even if it doesn't have fetch lands. I think Ikoria is our favorite set of these announced sets, right?
By far.
It sounds really cool. I hope it's Kaiju. That'd be awesome. Can we get Kaiju?
That would be insane. You have like Godzilla Planeswalker. Come on.
Dinosaur Planeswalker.
Make it so.
Dinosaur Planeswalker that'd be amazing.
Get
I would love
Watley to
that.
write it.
Well, they said that they're doing 2 people on 1 Planeswalker card. Like they did with the Royal Scions. So they can do it with Watley and a dinosaur.
Yeah.
Watley gets her Mowu that just travels around to all the different planes with her.
Exactly.
So we're going to wrap up here because we're pretty low on time. There was a lot of news this week, made a long episode, but hopefully you guys all enjoyed that, and we will have even more next week with all the new spoilers coming out soon. So guys, let's wrap up here with, what are you guys playing this week? Justin, are you playing any Magic, doing any events?
Been kind of goofing around on MTGA with my mono green Hydra stack. But other than that, that's really it.
And Jordan, anything you're doing with Magic this week? What are you playing?
Well, next week we're going to an MCQ, me and J-Car, and I'll probably end up playing Storm, so I'm going to be practicing that on MTGO. I'm also probably going to so I've been streaming every day, so I think I'm probably going to stream MTGA every day and just get a couple hours in every day. That way I can hit Mythic, because I'm currently just Gold, and I'm not very happy with that. I want to hit Mythic again.
Yeah, I'm also sitting in Gold right now. I got lazy last month, was too busy testing for GP Vegas, and did not get my Mythic grind on. So that's probably what I'm going to be doing this week, playing a lot of Vampires, having some success with that. I'll probably have to find some time for Jund, because that's what I'm playing in the MCQ. I'm just going to go ahead and shout out everyone here. So we got, Is It Fox? That's Jordan. He's Is It Fox on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube. You can find him everywhere. We got Justin. He's on Twitter at DubiousJustin, on Twitch at DubiousChallenger, and I'm Jake the Jackal on Twitch.tv, Wiry Jackal over on Twitter. Give us a like wherever you're listening to this on, a rating, share it with your friends. The more listeners we have, the more content we can produce for you guys, so it really does help out, and we'll see you next week. But before we go, Ban Garrick.